Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where a real statistics professor gives you sports betting tips. I am your host, Professor Sides, and I have built a set of mathematical models named Sideline that predict various sports outcomes. You'll hear more about the baseball model during the course of this episode, set to cover 5 Major League Baseball games scheduled to be played on Monday, May 15th, 2023. In case you're new here, check out the webpage on the banner. It's www.pickswiththeprofessor.com/new for some explanations and community rules. Remember, if you're interested in projections and picks for every single game, along with access to our Discord chat, which is a great place to get tips from other bettors on all sorts of other sports, ask questions of me about model, and again, is included in this. You get the number that the model requires for an A-grade pick. All of that's on Dub Club under $1 a day. That sign-up link is in the show description. Remember that sports are unpredictable, so the discussion on this show projects a typical game. It does not try to forecast it to a T, as that'd be a foolish and impossible goal. We take a long-term view on here. What that means is one-run games are going to be pretty 50-50. And so we're going to have stretches where we win all of those one-run games. We're going to have stretches where we lose them all. But that's just good and bad variance happening. And as much as I'd like to say we'll be profitable every single day, unfortunately, it just doesn't work that way. The idea being in the long run, the A-grade plays are working great. Again, you can get all of those on Dub Club. I've got a couple for you here today. In today's show, I've got some totals that I really like as well. But unfortunately, it's not always up. It's long-term up. And that's the long-term view we take around here, just slowly and steadily trying to increase our bankroll as much as we can. Before we get to today's show, though, some reminders. Please hit that like button if you're on YouTube. Also, if you aren't yet, please consider subscribing or following. It's free, and if you turn on notifications, you'll miss any college basketball, MLB, or college football content that this channel provides. A-grade moneyline plays will return as 4 units. It is the risk plus win will equal 4. That way, we risk proportionally more on favorites and dogs. B-grade plays return 3 units. C return 2. The idea being stronger plays should get more of our bankroll, but this way it allows us to play bigger favorites and bigger underdogs rather than flat betting, which will get you a little bit more exposed in different directions. This kind of scaling, I think, takes into account a little bit better what we're trying to do here. So it's just the scaling that I like to use. You can see it on the screen with the picks, but as always with everything, take what you like and leave the rest. I do have a day game here Monday, a little getaway day action for the Mets and Nationals. Going to take the Mets here at minus 155. It is an A-grade play. The requirement for it to be an A-grade play just barely sneaks in is minus 157. The reason this is an A-grade play is actually less about Patrick Corbin and more about David Peterson here. I actually think Corbin hasn't been that bad this year. He's been worth a fade a few times, but he's actually trending back closer to league average. He has a 4.87 ERA on the season, and the advanced metrics say it should actually be a little bit lower than that. So he's kind of at least becoming closer to a league average pitcher, and the Mets are pretty left-handed heavy, and so the Mets get a little bit of a ding there against lefties. So this isn't really just a fade of Patrick Corbin. Again, I don't think he's quite maybe as bad as he was last year. The reason that this is an A-grade play and the reason there's value on this pick, in my opinion, is David Peterson. He has a 7.68 ERA, but the underlying metrics suggest it should be in the mid-4s, and he projects to be better than that going forward. The model still has faith in him, likes what it sees, and thinks he's an above-average pitcher. And so there's value on it because I think the perception is that David Peterson's a terrible pitcher, and I don't think he is. If you think he's a terrible pitcher, then you're not going to like this pick. But again, the model still has faith in him, says he's a better pitcher than Patrick Corbin by almost 1 full standard deviation. Nats bullpen is better than the Nats bullpen. Their offense is better than the Nats as well. It is on the road, but minus 155 is a cheap price. Model says it should be minus 174. The Mets win this one around 63 to 64% of the time. The other pick I'm making on this one's actually going over. There's some 9s and 9.5s out there. I'm going over 9. I don't want to go over 9.5. If all you have is 9.5, shop around. See if there's another book you can open an account with that has a 9. I don't know when you'll be watching this, but I do like the over 9 if that's still out there for you. Model projects 9.6 runs. And the bottom line is, while I don't think that Corbin is as bad as the perception is, and I don't think that Peterson is as bad as the perception is, the bottom line is that these still aren't great pitchers, and we've got some nice hitting weather here for a day game. Should be mid-70s for the totality of the game, and the wind will be blowing out to right field at 5 to 10 miles an hour. So it's pretty good hitting weather. I think 9 is a pretty solid number to go over. Again, I wouldn't go over 9.5, but I do like the over 9, and I like being pretty heavy on the Mets here on Monday afternoon, getting us rolling hopefully with a profitable week. Another A-grade play here, 8:10 p.m. Eastern, Cubs at the Astros, projecting the roof to be closed in a game that I think the total's priced really well. I'm seeing 7.5 and 8. Model projects 7.7. So I think the total's spot on, no value there. But I love the Astros here at minus 178. Another game that just ekes into A-grade territory as the model requires minus 180 or better for that A grade. And the reason behind it is just, I think Framber Valdez is really good. Shouldn't be a shock to you. He dropped his rating down to a nice 69, which again, once you drop below 70, that gets to like super elite caliber pitching. 2.38 ERA on the season. The advanced metrics say maybe a tiny bit higher than that, but that's not that crazy. Jameson Taillon, actually, I don't think it's that bad. He has not looked great in his 5 outings to the tune of a 6.41 ERA, but the advanced metrics say it should be in the mid 3s. So it's not that he's a bad pitcher. It's just he's average, maybe slightly better than average, but he's going up against a bona fide ace in Framber Valdez. And that huge edge that the Astros have carries into the bullpen as well. Obviously, Framber's a guy who goes deep and doesn't make the bullpen pitch a lot, but the Astros bullpen is one of the better ones in the game. And the Cubs bullpen, again, just average. You've got average pitching all the way around for the Cubs, but you've got really elite pitching for the Astros. And that's the difference in this game. The Astros offense, probably a little bit better than the Cubs, but it's not by much. Not with this Astros offense being still hampered by injuries. Brantley now being shut down again. Altuve on rehab assignment. Just crossing our fingers that he's not going to get shut down again. Chas McCormick was shut down again. So, I mean, this Astros offense is kind of a shell of itself at this point for the moment, but it's still got enough hitting power on it. It's still not a bad offense, slightly above average, probably slightly better than the Cubs offense, but not really much to talk about there. The Cubs offense is decent enough. It's really not about the offense in this game. It's all about Framber Valdez. And that's why the Astros should be massive favorites in this, because I think we need to start treating Framber like we do Garrett Cole, Spencer Strider, Shane McClanahan, some of these guys who are at the very top that we just make them massive favorites in almost any situation. And I don't think that's the treatment he's getting quite yet, but I think that's the treatment he should be getting. So A-grade play for me on the Astros. A little bit of value here at minus 178. Models, it should be Astros minus 201. So what do you think starts with a 1? Is a good play on the Astros. And again, passing on the total, just focusing on backing my favorite team, but a team that, again, I'll fade if needed. Is just I don't think this is a spot to fade them. I think it's a good chance to back the Astros. Keeping the A grades rolling here, let's get the Rockies at plus 105, A grade at Coors. This one, is a real coin tossy type game, except it's kind of tilted the wrong direction both ways. And what I mean by that is the odds tilt towards the Reds, but I think the odds should tilt towards the Rockies. So plus 105 is an A grade. Model says that, just ekes into the A grade category right around this plus 105 to plus 110 range, gets to the A grade. Model says the Rockies win this almost 52% of the time. And Hunter Green is a really good pitcher, 3.69 ERA, and the underlying metrics support what he's been doing. But the bottom line is, I think this Rockies offense is better than the Reds offense. They both play in very hitter-friendly ballparks, so we really have to dive deep into the park neutral statistics to kind of figure that out. And of course, both these teams are going to play in a lot of high-scoring games at their home ballparks this summer. But I think the Rockies offense is a little bit better, and I have the Rockies pen is a little bit better as well. That's offset, of course, by the fact that Hunter Green is the better pitcher, and that is what mostly offsets and why the Rockies aren't favored by more, in my opinion. But the Rockies have one of the best home field advantages in all of baseball. We saw them against the Phillies. Sunday's game's happening as I record this, but we saw them give the Phillies everything they could on Friday and Saturday, and they didn't get a win, but they hung right in there in both of those games. And that's kind of the bottom line, is that the Rockies play pretty well at home. They had a chance in both of them, couldn't get it done. But that's kind of like I talked about at the start of the show with variance. That's the way it's going to go. If we go back in time and we play those games again, maybe they would turn on the right side on both of them. They couldn't quite get it done, but as long as they're playing in competitive games at home, they're going to get a lot of wins. They have a massive home field advantage. And so I think that this is one where I have the Reds favored on a neutral field, but in Coors, I think the Rockies should be slight favorites. So just eking into the A grade play at plus 105. Again, coin toss game that We're getting slightly better odds than the Rockies. I think they should be slight favorites. Another total play for me here. I'm going to go under. It worked for us on Saturday. We just cut it in by the hair of our chinny chin chin. But I'm going to do the same play, under 11.5. The model projects 10.2. And kind of as I mentioned then, and the only reason I'm taking another total in Coors is I just think it's a big enough edge where we can't help but fire away. Temperature on this one's going to be about 50 degrees for most of the game, and so it's not going to make the ball fly quite like it's going to play like a normal ballpark, which means there's going to be some home runs, but it's not going to be like summer at Coors where the ball's just flying like crazy. I mean, you're going to have to hit it well to hit a home run, and that doesn't mean it won't happen. It just means you're not going to get any atmospheric aided home runs in 50-degree weathers. Wind to be mostly across, so we're not getting any wind help there. I think there's some runs in this game. Model projects 10.2, but 11.5 just seems a bit too high, so it's enough of an edge. I'm going to drop on the under. Hopefully, at most, we get an 11-run game. It worked for us on Saturday. It's sticking at 11. I think there's good value on the under 11.5 here as well. So back in home Rockies and under as well. Connor Siebold, new team. Hopefully, he can handle the atmosphere at Coors and keep us in the game. And that's really all we're asking for there is kind of toe-to-toe-ish with Hunter Green. Keep it close, keep it lowish scoring, and then we got a great shot at plus odds to cash both the under and the dog. 9:40 p.m. Eastern, Royals at the Padres. Oh, look, the model is giving you a plus 170 as a C grade pick on the Royals. It's not one I'm personally playing. That's just if you're making a pick on the side, that's what the model says is probably better. But all the C grade plays are basically not a ton of value for the most part, other than a one-off that I might mention. Hey, this is why I like the C play. I don't really love this C play. I'm going to talk about it because people are like, hey, if you had to do something, what would you do? If I had to, I'd just take the plus odds because I think it's decent value. It's maybe value, or maybe it's more about the best price I'm seeing right now on the Padres minus 200. And I can't lay a price like that backing Michael Walker. He's a below average pitcher. So I'm not, taking the Padres. So maybe take the plus odds on the Royals here. I don't know. Model says it should be Padres minus 179. So they should be big favorites. They are big favorites. If you can get Padres minus 180, fire away. If you can get Royals at plus 180, now you're a little bit more excited. As it is, it's mostly a stay away on the side at these prices, but I'm talking about the prices in case it moves, depending on what you can get shopping around. Where I'm entering the market is really about that plus 180 mark on either, plus or minus 180 mark is kind of where I'm starting to think about making a play on either direction here. The main reason I want to talk about this is there's a lot of value, in my opinion, on this total. It's sitting at 9, and honestly, I can't remember seeing many totals of 9 at Petco Park. Other than, a day game where it's warmer in San Diego on some of those 85-degree days, where you get a few of those in San Diego. You don't get a ton, but you get a few of those. I don't quite understand why this total is so high. Under 9 is a great pick, in my opinion. The projected total is 7.6, and I'm not a huge fan of Michael Wacha or Brad Keller. I don't think either pitcher is great. They both have ERAs in the 4. The advanced metrics on both of these guys is definitely questionable. They're both below average pitchers. Wacha might be better, I guess, but it's not like it's by a ton. I mean, it's neither pitcher's great, but you're in still a very pitcher-friendly ballpark. You're going to have wind blowing in around 5 to 10 miles an hour, and it's going to be a normal night in San Diego with temperatures around 60 degrees. The ball's not really going to be flying in a pitcher-friendly ballpark. So, I mean, I just don't quite get why it's 9. Model says 7.6. I probably would go under 8. It'd be a smaller play, but I mean, 8 with some heavy juice is probably where I would make this, or 7.5. Again, it's not great pitching, but it's just, I think there's a little bit of the Royals have a good offense and a bad bullpen because the park they're playing at. But if you go back and if you've been with us, you saw the shows where we talked about a lot of those overs in Kauffman. And we were pointing out it was hot days, wind blowing out, hitter-friendly ballpark. And we were saying, hey, there's going to be a lot of runs in this game just based off the conditions. It has nothing to do with the players. It's all about the conditions. And so I think there's a misperception here. I think this total's higher because I think people are saying, oh, the Padres offense is really good. The Royals have no pitching, but the Royals can hit. The Royals aren't that good at hitting. They can just take advantage of the conditions, right? Those conditions aren't going to be here tonight. It's going from one of the more hitter-friendly ballparks at home, and we've had some warmer days in Kansas City so far here in early May versus a relatively chilly night in San Diego, or at least a normal night, which leads to pitcher-friendly ballparks. Air conditions. It doesn't mean it's a lock. There's no locks in gambling, right? You just never know how things are going to play out. You could just have single after single after single. The number of times I've seen batters walked in or hit by pitched in with bases loaded this year seems like it's higher. I don't know if it is or not, but like weird things happen in sports, right? It doesn't matter, right? What sport you're talking about, whatever sport you're watching right now, weird things happen. That's just life. So there's no locks in gambling, but I just think, this is one of those, if they play the game 10 times, I think it goes under 9, like 6 or 7 of them. I think this is just really mispriced. Under 9 is great value here. The Padres bullpen, usually pretty scary. And so maybe if you're a little bit concerned about that Padres bullpen, like I've been, maybe you play the first 5 under. The reason I'm sticking to full game numbers here is I think we're getting a little bit of extra value because I think the perception is this Royals bullpen is bad. It was really bad last year, but now the Royals bullpen actually rates out at league average. So I think we're getting some more value in the full game. So I lean taking full game under, but listen, if you're sitting there going, that Padres bullpen terrifies the daylights out of me, I just want to do first 5 and hope I can get my money out, that's not a crazy play either. If you want to split your wager between the two, that's not crazy either. Again, I'm just taking a full game under 9. I like having that push protection on 9. I think we're paying a little bit too much of a premium on the first 5 market, but I totally respect that decision if you want, because this Padres bullpen can be a little bit scary. But again, the Padres offense, again, really good. It's hard to score a ton of runs in that ballpark. If you look at any of their season metrics, they rate much better on the park neutral stuff than they do overall, simply because half their games are at a pitcher friendly ballpark. So I feel like I've said enough there, but again, under, love this play. If I had to pick a side right now, I'm taking the Royals at big plus odds because I don't know what's going to happen in this game and I don't really trust either pitcher, but really, again, I'm kind of holding out till I see a 180 on either side. And that's where I'm starting to get a little bit more invested in a side along with the under. And then wrapping us up, 10 p.m. Eastern, Twins at the Dodgers. Back in the Dodgers at minus 120 here. It's a B grade pick. Model says it should be Dodgers minus 122. Again, after that really bad start, the Dodgers are turning into one of the stronger teams in baseball, just like we expected. The bottom line on this one is that Pablo Lopez is a great pitcher. I love the guy. He's always been rated well in my model. He's always been a guy I love to back, when he was the Marlins. Here's the thing, though. I think we're getting a little bit of value with Syndergaard, simply because I don't think he's quite as bad as his numbers look like. I said this last time he pitched, and he only lasted 1 inning because he lost like part of his finger, which was kind of gruesome at the picture that I saw. He threw 50 pitches the other day in a bullpen session, and it held up just fine. So crossing our fingers that he can go. Good news, even if he can't, that Dodgers bullpen is really good, and it's really deep. So I like, even if he can't go deep, this Dodgers pen coming on behind him, you don't lose. And you actually get better because the Dodgers relievers are really good. And Syndergaard's not a great pitcher. I think there's a little bit of value, though, because I think the perception is that he's completely lost it. And I'm not sure that's true. I think he's below average, but I don't think he's below average by as much as the market would seem to indicate, that other people seem to think. He does have a 6.12 ERA on the season. There's no hiding that. But the advanced metrics say it should be in the upper 4s, which isn't good. He projects in the mid 4s, which isn't that good. I'm acknowledging that fully. It's just, I think it's one of those, people think he's an F grade pitcher, and I think he's like a C- pitcher, right? So I just think we're getting a little bit of value based off the difference in perception with Syndergaard. That's really the main reason that I think that we can play the Dodgers here. Again, as long as your numbers are around minus 120, tiny bit higher, maybe okay, but not by much. We don't want to pay too much this year because this Twins team isn't bad. But the thing here is this Twins offense still hangs around league average. The Dodgers have one of the best offenses in baseball. Twins bullpen good, but it's actually outmatched by the Dodgers bullpen. So the only downside of this game is Syndergaard. But like I said, I think there's a little bit of value on him because I'm just not sure he's quite as bad as people think. And so because of that, as long as he can kind of hold his own a little bit against Pablo in the first handful of innings, if it's tight, once we get late into the game, again, the Twins bullpen is solid, but that Dodgers offense is so good and that Dodgers bullpen so good at home. Great chance to win. I think the Dodgers will be bigger favorites in this. Minus 120 again gets a B grade for me. Otherwise, we're going to start off in the low 60s, close in the upper 50s. Winds will be blowing out, dying down as the night goes on, just like it seems like every night in Dodger Stadium. Total is 8.5. Model projects 8.8, so the model would lean over. I'm not touching it at 8.5. If I get an 8 without too much juice, I would be going over, but I'm not going over 8.5. I want that push protection on 8. I can really see Dodgers winning something like 5-3. And in that world, I want that push protection if they only get to 5, and that's the way that it plays out. That's all I've got for you here today. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Picks with the Professor. Don't forget to subscribe so you can enjoy the sports betting content provided on this channel, dropped right into your feed. Back again tomorrow with more sports betting tips. And until then, as always, best of luck. And remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.